radio at all. Not even with the bombing plane that's coming over. All radio is dead.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
It's going to make you one of the rising up.
That because right now we are talking about our episode of Horror of the Worlds, where we talk about horror movies and how they've been influenced and the influence that they have made upon the world itself. I'm Curtis Gerhardt.
I'm Stephen Miller.
And today, all right, I'm not even talking about like today. Like, imagine, let's go back in time a little bit. The year's 1977. A great sci-fi movie came out that helped spark the love and has made Disney millions of dollars where they milked the cow dry. And just 2 years after that, I'll let you guys figure out what movie I'm talking about. 1977. A lot of you guys will know. Do your research, damn it. I'm not doing all your research for you. But 2 years after that, a movie that actually helped spark so much sci-fi horror, which that's what we're talking about today, is sci-fi horror, creature, monster. Did you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I did.
I blanked that shit out. I'm already fucking gonzo, man. I'm on another planet because that's what we're talking about. But yeah, more of the creature feature aliens, not so much the ones where humans. It sounds so weird.
Not the gray man look, but the fucking grotesque, fucked up looking.
Yeah, that's why we say like
hideous
creatures,
beasts.
like
Yeah.
the creature feature. But so 1979 is a great year. Let's go back a little bit further, back in 1902.
1902, yeah.
Yeah, only about 22 years ago at this time, which is when the genre, like whole sci-fi movie genre actually started with Georges Méliès.
I believe so.
Méliès? Would it be?
I don't know, man.
I'm
bad
horrible
at
at English. English is my first and only language. I'm so bad at. I think it's just Méliès, right? So it's not Méliès for plural. So Georges' movie, A Trip to the Moon, which is not horror by any means.
No, definitely not. It had a creep factor to it, but I feel like it's because it was a filming style that we have detached from since then. Like the same reason claymation, no matter how bright and fun it is, it's still got a creepy little motion.
When you look back
to
at like some of the history, like that's one of the reasons why I love this podcast and stuff, but like learning about history of all these movies, but in history in general, when it comes to animation and some of the early Disney shit, it is incredibly fucked up.
Creepy factors, yeah.
That's why I want to do this so much, is because I don't want to get rid of history.
No.
As fucked up and as dark and as I already said it, fucked up as history actually is, it shouldn't be forgotten.
No.
We will repeat it.
That's who we are, yep. It will happen again if you're not careful.
No, it doesn't matter how careful we are. Happened with Ray. Oh, I'm going to make this reference. Oh, no, I'm not. God damn it. Speaking of awesome people. So actually A Trip to the Moon is one of the movies that Thomas Edison ended up stealing and reproducing pretty much because there was no copyright for that movie. This is one of the ones that actually helped start Georges' decline and like to bankruptcy.
Oh, I did
because
not
he
know
fucked
that.
him on this one because he was Georges' movie was getting big and traction over in Europe and France around this time, and Edison took that shit and ran with it over here in the States.
Even some bitch.
Mm-hmm. So what America does great, we take and we make it. I have no words to put
Mine.
there.
Fuck you, it's mine.
There we go. That's an extremely nice way to put it. But yeah, that movie. So it is also, I guess, noted as the first sci-fi movie, and also it's only a 15-minute movie, but that's a movie back then. But it's the first sci-fi film, and has some animation in it, so it's actually the first animated film as well.
Yeah, and once again, the animation's fucking eerie. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a 15-minute watch, so it's really not hard to get through. It's just, it felt like if you're not paying attention, you blink, it's a lot. Yeah. Really.
So, I mean, This movie is already, I want to say the term is open domain, free domain, so you could watch it anywhere. It should be on many YouTube channels. It should be on any streaming, streaming service.
It's on, it's on the beloved Tubi.
Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those George's movies that you should see if you like sci-fi or if you like horror.
I mean, this movie was also
birth.
referenced in a lot of, like, Futurama references this movie
we talked
like
about that
a billion times.
That's one of the great things too is when it comes to like horror movies, especially like that horror sci-fi, I feel like it has become so much of the zeitgeist. It's out in the ether, like where we absorb it so much, and it's in all of our like movies and TV shows that we watch, where they do make references to it. Like even if it's not sci-fi or horror based, it's the whole be afraid, be very afraid. Yeah, everyone kind of knows that. Do they know where it's from? No, a lot of them, like, it's from The Fly. It's a fucking Cronenberg movie that
the best.
I could almost guarantee that almost no one has seen.
Yeah.
Same thing, like, it is a sci-fi horror, but it's not part of this genre that we're watching today. Is with Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
Stuff where they have that whole point and scream. Futurama has made fun of that. I mean, granted, it's that whole sci-fi, but
actually that exact moment, where his jaw drops, the fucking sound comes out.
I can't mimic it.
It was one of the episodes where Bender went into the
robot planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they found out the non-robots.
Yeah. But so that's what I mean. Like I feel like sci-fi and horror are like those cousins. The kissing cousins. Not the ones that are like, oh yeah, we're cousins. Like, because
fucking weird ones.
I feel like they stopped doing it like in the 2010s when on streaming services and when you actually went to stores when they actually sold physical copies. It used to be sci-fi / horror / sci-fi.
Right.
Now you actually have different sections. There's a horror section. There's a sci-fi section. As you went into like an actual good movie store or whatnot where they actually had them separate, but no, you went on a streaming service. It was horror / sci-fi.
Blockbuster, rest in peace.
No, there's still one. Right. There's still one left.
Did it right, man.
And they're here in Oregon. I shouldn't say here in Oregon. We're not in Oregon, but only 8 hours away from where we're at.
Yeah, it's a good little road trip.
It is a fucking excellent road trip, to be honest. All right, let's go ahead and jump forward because it's a 16-minute movie. You should go watch. Go watch it. Pause this. We could use the views. All right, we're gonna actually move on to a movie that no one really knows that it is a prequel. No, I shouldn't say a prequel. It is the first movie that a sequel was made that no one knows that it exists.
Everybody, I didn't know that the original existed. In fact, when you brought it up, I went to the apparent remake.
Yeah, so this is based off of a book, a sci-fi book that came. I did not write down the date it came out, but it was written by John W. Campbell. I want to say his pseudonym that he wrote for the book was Don A. Stewart, but the name of the book was Who Goes There? Yeah, which supposedly there's a board game of like Who Goes There, which is like a 16-hour board game, which you could die in the first 15 minutes and you have to wait it out.
Sounds fair.
So,
Monopoly.
If you know that name, Who Goes There, we're going to be talking about the movie The Thing from Another World. Came out in 1951, directed by Christian Nibby and Howard Hawks. I want to say Nibby because it's N-Y-B-Y, but
I was actually really upset that I didn't know it was a remake. I felt like I should have known. It's just the remake was done so fucking well. Like,
we were talking about John Carpenter's The Thing.
The Thing. And The Thing almost follows, I mean, it's very, very well updated, but it almost follows the original storyline to the T. I mean, it got way better with presentation because in-studio effects are the shit when The Thing came out. I think the second time.
The two things that made a big difference between The Thing and this movie is, one, black and white and color.
Oh, sure,
I'm sorry, but I mean, a lot of people that are even watching this, like, or will be watching this, that's usually the cutoff point. It's like, is it black and white? I can't get into those movies.
And the time frame in which a movie was usually allowed to be seen in. Like, I mean, I want to say around the 80s. It wasn't necessarily typical for a 2-hour movie, but an hour and a half, an hour 45, you usually sit down for something like that.
A horror movie,
Yeah.
which it did flop. It was not a good movie.
No.
Or I shouldn't say it wasn't a good movie. It wasn't a critically acclaimed movie when
yeah.
John Carpenter's movie came out. This one actually, I want to say, did pretty damn well when it came out. But this was also at the hype. This was around the time frame of, you gotta think, Roswell was 1947, so that was a huge thing.
UFO
America's
happenings.
already, alien centric. Like sci-fi movies were already huge in the 50s. Battle of L.A., 1942, which, if you don't know that one, it's where this is during World War II. So a lot of these movies just came out of World War II. We're still defeated. We weren't defeated in the war.
We're
We're
working on
retired.
some serious countrywide PTSD. Lack of trust at every corner looked around.
Let's use proper terms.
everything, Yeah.
We were in shell shock.
Yeah, shell shock for sure.
But yeah, the whole Battle of LA was, air raid sirens going off on LA beach, and we were shooting artillery into the sky, and that one amazing picture of one of the shells hitting an object supposedly, and it was shaped like a UFO.
Yeah.
They have no idea what it's a. Who fucking knows?
It's a conspiracy. I mean,
But-
at the very least.
And that's the thing, America's been lied to since the dawn of America.
No, I mean,
And so, it's hard to say oh, this didn't exist, or this didn't happen, or it wasn't the way that supposedly happened, whatever. So, it was a great birth of sci-fi. It started a lot of the xenophobia where we wanted to stay, we're here, you stay over there, that's what a lot of sci-fi is.
Yeah.
Others coming over to our
they're
planet.
different. Don't trust them.
We got to kill them. They don't belong
Yeah.
here. It's the truth of the fact.
We fear what we don't understand.
Yeah.
And these movies for sure prove that.
We like to be
point.
comfortable.
Yeah.
That's society as
Predictability
100% of
is
society,
comfort.
ever. It's we want to be comfortable in our spot, and anything that's going to make us uncomfortable, we shut it down.
Right.
But yes, we were kind of saying before, this movie is original. John Carpenter did an excellent job. He did his movie was more based off of the book more than the movie. The movie was kind of, I don't know, almost think of it as Bram Stoker's Dracula and Universal Studios Dracula, where the Dracula Universals is
Yeah.
more based off of the play compared to the book. That's how A Thing from Another World was. It's more its own thing with inspirations from the book.
Right.
But it's also a great kind of creature feature.
It was a practical made movie,
Mm-hmm.
and the storyline was enough to keep me going alone without a big reveal. I mean,
Even the
reveal was worthwhile. But like I was saying, I did not have a problem watching this movie throughout the whole thing. There was, to me, with it resembling so much of the
Mm-hmm.
version that I've seen a million times, it still kept me wanting to see
Oh, it has a spaceship.
how was it done in the first place.
I think they even use thermite to blow up
Yeah,
the spaceship
they
in
actually
ice,
used explosions,
and they
Yeah.
pulled a boner. I freaking love that line. But that's one of the things I enjoy a lot of these older movies, especially around this time frame, because we reviewed them. It's just the weird comedy. It's very comedic in an old-fashioned way. There's even I wish I wrote down the female actress's the female actor's name in this movie, because she wasn't really portrayed as a dumb woman. She was actually more of an equal in this patriarchy of a time frame.
Yeah.
Patriarchal. You know what I'm talking about.
She was the brains, not the dumb blonde running upstairs away
Yes.
from any chance at escaping. She was proactive, made sure shit didn't die.
Let alone one of the fight scenes with the monster, the thing, because this is more plant based. He's not really infecting humans; he's killing humans, draining their blood to feed plants to create more spores. in this one.
Almost a hero if you think about it.
He's just trying to survive. I mean, you got to
Right?
kill and
Like-
eat, to survive. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But like one of the fight scenes I really love, and how fucking crazy. Like, watch this whole movie, especially watch this scene, is a fire scene when they throw kerosene.
Oh yeah.
Because this is all practical effects. You have, I think, was like 7, 8
Destruction.
actors, including this woman. Like, oh my god! All right, so the creature comes in. I'm ruining this whole scene. I don't care because you got to watch it. It is so much fun. So you have the monster that comes in. They just light him the fuck up. Like, he's on fire. The creature going crazy. He's swiping things, so other things are catching on fire. Mind you, this is happening in a small ass building too. Like, this is not like outside. So you have legitimate flames engulfing this whole set. They have this woman stand by the light switch, covered with a mattress. The creature that's on fire runs over to her, swinging around. They throw more kerosene. That whole area catches ablaze. I felt so sorry. I was like, how did she not die?
The look of fear was real. There was no acting in this scene other than the poor son of a bitch in that hot suit.
Oh man! Like, and he
thought
jumps
it was
out.
great.
The alien's safe, and they put out the fire with the fire extinguishers. This is all like pretty much one. It's like pretty much one take. It is. I think for the longest time, this would actually held the record for the longest stunt fire.
Yeah.
Or like stuntman under fire. So I mean, it's just that scene itself is 100% worth just watching this movie.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It is.
I
Take my enthusiasm.
absolutely.
Watch this movie. Watch this part. It's so much fun. I like fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who doesn't? Fire and explosion. Fire.
Yes, don't do those stunts at home, kids, unless insert excuse here.
You're filming. Unless you're filming.
Oh man, I wish I could remember that German serial killer's name right now, because he was actually got off on starting fires. Like, he was a
Holy
pyromaniac.
shit. Oh yeah.
Like, legitimate, like, got off on this shit, and he went around beating women and I think kids, like, with a hammer, and just like,
Holy fuck.
fucking humans are fucking crazy.
Humans are fucking crazy.
I don't like people.
How is that not a fucking movie?
It probably is just like
It's
some
easier
German
to-
movie that I haven't.
It's easier to
across yet.
believe that it's a fucking monster in a movie than it is a human being.
It isn't. It isn't.
But then you really meet some of these like unsolved mysteries and shit. You're like, people are just fucked.
Yeah,
up.
we are way more brutal than it is in the movies.
Yeah.
Like, when there's not as much blood in real life as it is like in the movies a lot of the times. Like, it's just over dramatized in the movies because
Right.
blood sells. you know?
Absolutely. But then again, I mean, sometimes it's actually how it went down. It just wasn't a werewolf. It was a cannibalistic man that lost his mind to mercury and syphilis. I don't know. Look at
Dude,
crazy
syphilis
shit.
like, did a lot of
Shit.
fucking things back then. Like, oh yeah, this is not a serial killer podcast right now. Sorry. But no, it was also believe that this. So again, coming out of like, I want to say this was coming out of World War II, or this is like in the midst of it. I can't remember off the top of my head when World War II finished. Sorry, I'm bad at dates. That's why I have them written down sometimes. But this movie was a kind of stood for like the whole science, because you had the science professor that didn't want to kill the creature. He wanted to study it. He wanted to learn. He wanted to, learn from this alien.
Yeah, but that's exactly.
And make things
That's
better.
when I start yelling at the screen.
Mm-hmm. So it was a whole like, you had the scientist and science representing bad. The whole like atom bomb type stuff being bad. All this chemical warfare, and the army, the actual servicemen that were in this movie, are like good. Like the actual army and the Marines that fought in World War II, like the actual hand-to-hand combat and stuff is better than destroying whole towns based off of
Ignorance, orders.
if you're actually
Yes.
listening to this podcast, I am cringing because it is.
Shit happens.
Yeah. No, like I'm not a huge fan of war.
No.
it kind of upsets me a little bit. So speaking of war, I feel like this is a good segue.
yeah, I guess it is.
So we're jumping into the future. Many, many years. 1953. Only 2 years. A movie directed by Byron Haskin and was originally written by H.G. Wells. And is taken from the name of this podcast a little bit. Like, if you haven't guessed, it is War of the Worlds in 1953.
It's the most pandemonium ever started from a story being told on radio ever.
Like, that is, again, I think this is one of the things that started the whole disbelief in. All right, so this is my conspiracy theory on this whole thing, because Orson Welles did like the whole radio announcement that there was an actual attack going on. Supposedly America went crazy. I wasn't there. I don't know how actually true it is, how over dramatized it is, because you have movie reviews like, oh, people are fainting during this movie, or people are getting heart attacks, and like no one faints at the movies, or they're just too drunk and they pass out. You know, I mean,
or vomit. I mean, that's possible, man.
Yeah, so I mean, I 100% don't believe a lot of this. You know, based off of even that whole thing is, I want to say my conspiracy is this was a test to see how Americans will handle actual alien invasion. The Orson Welles thing, like that's
a fair way to look at it. I'm a
test the waters
fan of a good conspiracy theory, and that would be a crazy ass way to fucking do it. That would be an absolutely bonkers
I mean, you got to think of the time frame. Like, there was more radios, there wasn't really TVs or anything. Like, the only information you got was newspaper, radio, or the ads they played during movies when they went to a movie theater.
Feels like it's something you'd want to know. Like, you now know that people would lose their fucking shit and buy up all of the toilet paper if there was some kind of pandemic happening.
If someone speaks in a calm, aggressive, derogatory voice, people will follow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be derogatory. In Orson Welles, he was a very well-spoken announcer, a very well-spoken man that, delivered a very scary speech that people just listened to and believed. And
it was,
it sounds very reminiscent.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It was complete with sound effects and everything, though. I mean, the man had quite the fucking presentation going on.
That was
as far as I'm concerned. If I was a pat on my own back, 100%.
I wish I could remember the name. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but there was the when they played stories over the radio and stuff, they actually had sound effects and all this stuff to actually, that was their form of entertainment. Families gathered around the radio to listen to, these horror stories.
Right.
Stuff. So, I mean I'm not saying people were gullible. People are more gullible back then than they are nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that 100%. It's just, it feels like that's what every director's trying to do when they get in there, is to have you lose your absolute ever-loving mind when you watch this film. And back when it was just a fucking radio story, he did exactly that.
The book it was based off of a book that came out in 1897. That
still caused chaos.
So supposedly. That's the thing. The whole the radio story in this movie is more based off of aliens, the whole xenophobe kind of trope a little bit, right. Coming over and us trying to defend ourselves. It was more of a us versus them. At this time, you're following the story of America fighting this foreign entity, these UFOs that were controlled by aliens, more creatures, which you only see that arm of a creature. But that's like one of the things. It's more of a creature feature still a little bit. Yeah. I'm kind of stretching a little bit, but it's our podcast name for this fucking sake of it.
Yeah.
But the book is more based off of, I want to say, U.S.-Britain war at the time. So it was more country versus country, not so much alien-based.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's what a good story is. We got to, influences.
Yeah.
But no, this movie's actually pretty fucking solid. I want people to kind of go watch it because it's more sci-fi than it is horror.
But once again, when we're talking about this particular genre, we have to go back and see what sparked things like what we know today. It's what shook us up in the 80s from our slashers and shit like that. So, I mean,
this is where we're at.
Yeah, we're here because of that.
Yeah, like these are some of the movies. Some of the movies that helped influence the whole sci-fi genre, the whole, like, the birth of the whole sci-fi horror genre. Like I said, the thing from Another World is that more horror heavy sci-fi. War of the Worlds is more sci-fi, less horror.
Right.
And stuff. It's another one of those movies where I really don't like how the aliens are destroyed, and some of the belief that, because you could look at it as a religious point where God saved them. You could look at it as, you just wait out the enemy and the enemy will die out.
Get tired and leave or die out.
But incredibly solid movie. I can't speak for the Tom Cruise one that came out because I've only seen segments of that movie, and all I know of that movie is what I've seen in Scary Movie 4.
Yeah.
Which I feel like Scary Movie 4, Scary Movie 3, whatever the one that was War of the Worlds based, is a whole lot better than the Tom Cruise movie. The only Tom Cruise movie I like is Tropic Thunder.
Dude, that was a good one. All right.
Because you could have tell that was him.
That was way out of character for him.
So speaking of dicks, we're gonna travel to the year 2001. Oh, wait a minute. I got that wrong. We're going to travel to the year 1968, where 2001: A Space Odyssey movie came out.
Stacy, give me your answer to I am crazy for the love of you.
Directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Very, very influential director. That dude made horror for everyone to see. It feels like
He is like one of those ones where he's a Ridley Scott of back. I shouldn't say back then. He was one of the ones like Christopher Nolan like nowadays is like where they're just given money. Like, make your movie. We don't care how much it costs. It'll make the money back.
A24. I mean, he was definitely, in my opinion, when I watched a Kubrick film, I knew I was going to have to pay attention. You know what I mean? It wasn't just another regurgitated fucking,
Because it's going to be a 3-hour story-driven, dialogue-driven, usually sometimes not even that much action.
Right.
Driven. Again, this isn't really much of a horror movie. It is more sci-fi. That whole 80%. I would say 80% sci-fi, and more that 20% is kind of more horror, because it is kind of scary going out in space and AI taking over and being.
The more you know, the more scared you'd probably be, because you could think yourself into feeling trapped, alone, confused. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what this whole movie is about. Overthinking and overanalyzing. And then you having humans that are doing the same exact thing of overthinking and overanalyzing, and which it just kind of clusterfucks everything and makes a bad situation even worse.
Right.
Again, this is another one of those movies where, if you've seen one of Monty Python's, I want to say it's A History of the World, other ones like where they have the apes that are just sitting around and they're fucking with bones or whatever. It's because of this movie. Yeah. That's how this whole movie started, is the whole evolution.
Iconic fucking scenes that have been
which I think
made fun of in every movie.
That's one thing I think Kubrick did really good. He was really good at making movies.
Yeah.
Not how he made movies, but the movies themselves, how they actually became so big and so well known and so influential.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Because, I mean, The Shining is a prime example on how he didn't exactly follow the book, per se, to make the movie, but he still made a damn fine movie.
And it was also not a very great director as well, where it made Shelley Duvall
absolutely fucking nuts.
Like pretty much quit acting. R.I.P. She just recently died.
Yeah, it feels like this episode is things that Futurama would make fun of. Like,
Which
they're already very sci-fi oriented for sure, but they kept it on the dark side of sci-fi when they made fun of movies. It felt like they were taking like tips of the hat at the lesser explored. I mean,
they 100% made a whole episode based off of this one. It was when they actually made the spaceship actually sentient and stuff, like where Bender started becoming a romantic relationship. It's again, if you see that giant red eye that kind of talks, it is because of this movie.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're down for a very slow movie, this movie is amazing. I'm not trying to undersell it or oversell it. I'm not trying to oversell it at all.
luck.
And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get into a huge sci-fi film where it's like I'd rather talk about horror than sci-fi. But I still enjoy movies as a whole. But this is one of the ones that made sci-fi huge, help explode it. But also, one of the authors, because this is another movie that's based off of a book. So the '60s was also a big time where sci-fi books were actually becoming huge. It was a lot of authors are actually starting making more astronaut, Space Odyssey type of books. That sounds really bad. More robotics, more AI. Like it was more like Jetsons when you kind of think about it. Like Space Odyssey is a perfect thing because it was the author of this book. It was Arthur C. Clarke, which was I guess one of the big three when people ever think about big sci-fi book authors. Which one is Isaac Asimov and Robert A. Heinlein. It's Heilein. Which that's the thing. Like you probably don't know the name, but you know one of the books that he's written. Because I want to say this is a book that made a great sci-fi political movie that we all know. Super Troopers or Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers, yeah, all right.
Super Troopers too, but Starship Troopers.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, I heard that the book vastly different from the movies. I mean,
yes,
all the way down to the characters for the most part. Like, I mean, you have the characters, sure, but some of the happenings in the book.
I honestly I don't know anything about Starship Troopers book compared to the movie. I haven't read or looked into any of the stuff. Same with the book. Believe it or not, I'm not much of a reader. I do listen to audiobooks occasionally, but it's I'm not the person that says like, oh yeah, this book was taken from this movie or vice versa, or it is so much more detailed in the book, which it usually is, or the movie took one character from the book and made it two, or
this is one of the ones that if you'll enjoy the read, you'll enjoy the watch, but you're not going to sit there and enjoy them for the same reasons. Because the book doesn't follow the movie doesn't necessarily follow the book. Characters' names are the same, but personality traits, all kinds of things like that.
I feel like that's how one should go into any movie, book, or video game, or whatever anything is influenced off of. Is take it for its own thing, like its own influence. Like, yes, you could love one more than the other. You could say one is better than the other, but don't necessarily hate the book or hate the movie or hate the video game because they ruined something else.
I feel like I feel like partially. I think it was Simon Pegg that was upset at 2003, 2008, Dawn of the Dead, right? Mm-hmm. The one where they were all trapped in the mall. The mall, yeah. He was upset at that movie, calling it that. He was like, it's just so different from the original. It felt like you were trying to ride on the coattails of the original. What you should have done is at least change the name. What you were trying to do is get more views, but what you did was...
But that's what, I'm using Hollywood as a blanket excuse for movies. What Hollywood does best is take the name and either make the same fucking movie or change up the movie, but keep the name just for... Like Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't want to get into that one again.
Well, George Romero was a god, and that's all. I think that's what his thing was. Is like it was almost a slap in the face to the god of the great
and
zombie
that's one thing
maker.
When you have someone that actually made he made the genre, he made the movies, fucking perfect. Had Tom Savini make fucking everything perfect.
Yeah.
So it's hard to not get upset about a remake off of someone that at the time was still alive. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I guess so. I just feel like if the book differs from the movie so much, why not just call it something else? Inspired by the book, Starship Troopers.
Harambe. But no, it's a... But I guess Arthur C. Clarke was really known for commonly predicting a lot of the tech future and stuff. So, I mean, when you actually watch A Space Odyssey, a lot of it feels very close to the truth. A lot of the AI that is actually going on there is on our phones. It is on our tablets, on our TVs nowadays.
Yeah.
fucking our cars. Like pretty much every electronic is pretty much Space Odyssey is to think of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean that's one of the things that's kind of great is sometimes these movies, especially when it comes to like sci-fi movies, that's one thing I do actually enjoy about sci-fi is you have these authors, you have these directors, you have these writers. Because yes, I will use authors and writers at two separate entities, creating this vast new world. And what do we want to do? We're going to want to make a Cybertruck. We're going to want to create. We want to try to replicate something that we read or watched in a movie that was, at this time, 68? That's 40, 60, almost.
So the only thing they kind of got wrong was the time frame. You know what I mean? We're not in flying cars yet, but we have cell phones.
Yeah, people weren't living on the moon yet. Like that's the whole thing there. Like this would be a time frame where I wouldn't mind actually living in because they were actually traveling to other, planets and stuff. Like they're actually living. Let alone like the camera. Like I think that's like one of the reasons why Stanley Kubrick is so well known and so beloved in ways. Is some of the camera shots that he does is just fucking phenomenal in this movie because I'm watching it and even like with me knowing what I know, I can't reproduce or can't do, but I know how it's kind of done. It's hard to imagine that he did this back in 68. Like to me, that's just like one of the things I always kind of like repeat to myself. 1968, and he's pulling off these things like where you have people all in one shot walking on the roof or like the walls and the roof, and these rooms are spinning around. Like yes, we know that the camera's stationary, the rooms are the camera's turning, rooms are, it's there's a lot of work to it. There's only like one or two scenes that are very bad, but it's just like how it's filmed. It is extremely pleasant, like to like the mind, not so much the eye because it's very trickery to the eye, but it's just like wow, that is amazing on what he did. Yeah,
he was a master of the angle shots for sure. I mean, he did that in every fucking movie.
Yeah. But so this next movie is almost arguably, I don't want to say like a blanket ripoff, but it is. If you've seen this movie, you have seen Space Odyssey, but this movie does things better, but it's not as, I don't want to say tech savvy. It isn't. It's more of a gross, dirty, grungy, amazingly like just dark, wet. I'm just trying to think of like moist. Like, a moist movie is Alien from 1979.
Moist was it?
Directed by Ridley Scott, written by someone that we have talked about before. If you listen to our zombie episode, again, bringing up zombies, is Dan O'Bannon, which he, I want to say his directorial reboot was A Return of the Living Dead stuff. So, I mean, he is like one of the biggest causes for, honestly, if it wasn't for Dan O'Bannon, I don't think Alien would be as big as it is.
Up as it is. I mean, it was great. Between that and what is it, H.R. Giger's
Giger.
Giger, yeah, the art.
I'll talk about H.R. Giger here in a minute because I do want to kind of branch off into him after we talk about the movie a little bit, because we do kind of bring up like before, like, oh, Tom Savini this or Rick Baker this, like we have to do a whole episode. They deserve a whole episode. So does H.R. Giger. But you can't talk about Alien without talking about Giger.
Absolutely not. Holy shit.
But, one of those movies I think has a lot of argument where people will say that it's not a horror movie, it's a sci-fi, which I don't agree.
That.
It's a horror movie.
No, it's a horror movie.
It is sci-fi, but it is a horror movie.
There's a slasher vibe. It's got some stalking.
Oh, it's not even a slasher vibe. It's a home invasion, haunted house movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think it was Fede Alvarez that is doing the Alien Romulus. That's like where I want to say that he was talking about what if there's more of an invasion? Like, we're invading the aliens. Oh my god! Like, I wish I could remember verbatim on what he said, but like, what if we're the intruders? Like, we went onto the spaceship and we took over. Like this, it's almost like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. How we went into this house.
Oh,
and
you
they're just trying to
misstep,
defend.
motherfucker! Yeah, you're in my home.
Yeah, and it's like, what are you doing here? Get out, like, and stuff. And the alien's just trying to protect itself, trying to grow. And it's like, all right, you just stepped in, but
fucking Space Marines. Tread lightly, bro.
So, but that's a great thing about Alien is, it is, like I say, it is kind of like a ripoff of. Ridley Scott did kind of rip off a little bit of. All right. I know. Because I don't want to say, I hate saying ripoff because it's not, but it is.
Took inspiration from.
That's a pleasant word. So, you have, was it HAL 9000 from A Space Odyssey? And then you have Arthur, I think it is. Oh my god, I can't remember I think it's Ash. Honestly, I'm sorry. I apologize. I should be a lot more professional on this. But that plays like the robot in Alien.
Yeah.
And stuff. The one that no one really realized that he was a animatronic, like a robot. Like he was playing HAL 9000's part. Like he was the one that had a mission that the humans didn't know, that there was another mission aside from it.
Right.
So you have AI again taking information from you that already has information for itself. He's just
still familiar horror.
That's what I mean. It's like very inspirational, like inspired by the whole like possibly home invasion. It's a haunted house. You're stuck in a spaceship where this creature that grows at a rapid pace during this movie, particular.
Fucking, and the way it reproduces alone is the most terrifying fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
The face hugger is probably one of my favorites. Like, it's quick, it's small, it looks like a scorpion. And it face fucks you till something explodes out your stomach.
So, speaking of face fucking, we're going to talk about H.R. Giger.
Yeah, right.
Hans Rudy Giger, born February 5th, 1940, passed away May 12th, 2014, about 74 years old. So that's like one of the reasons why I was kind of saying, like, this movie wouldn't have been made if it wasn't for Dan O'Bannon. Or it wouldn't be the way it is. I personally felt it wouldn't be the way it was if it wasn't for Dan O'Bannon. Because Dan O'Bannon showed Ridley Scott, if I'm not mistaken, the Necronomicon.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I freaking love that one. But it had Giger's artwork and all this stuff in it. And he kind of fell in love with it. It's like, that's the look. That's a xenomorph.
Yeah.
And stuff.
He's got a touch of techno-erotica thing going on with all of
the
his
biomech.
Shit yes,
where it is very humanoid but very mechanical.
Yes.
Very, I don't want to really say erotic, or sexual, because it's not really. It supersedes that erotic and sexual nature, where it is a lot of, erogenous areas. Oh, fuck it. We say fuck. I just said fuck. So, like vaginas and like penises and stuff. Like there is a lot of like penetration. There is a lot of anatomy going about everything else. Like it is, but that's the thing. It's not sexual. I would never consider any of his art sexual, but it is very dark. A lot of it, like he always says, it has something to do with like birth, life, and death all in one.
Right.
Like, it's a very circular. But it is, for me personally, hard to explain it itself without just saying like it's very erotic, it's dark, it's very monotonish.
I feel like a lot of those things. I mean, whether or not you want to slap all those on it, it is definitely inspiring and
very beautiful work. Like
very beautiful, yeah. Slightly terrifying.
That's the thing, though.
Like, it was perfect to put in this film or make something into this film from it.
So a lot of info I got from him was based off of a documentary called Dark Star H.R. Giger's World. It is streaming on. It's usually streaming somewhere.
Yeah.
It is predominantly in a foreign language because I want to say they mix it between like Swedish, German, and I think some of it's French at times, but there is some English in it. There are subtitles. But one of the things I learned from it was he drew from his dreams, a lot of times from his nightmares. Like, so as a kid, like, he was kind of...
Makes sense.
Like, the way that he was, why he drew and all these things, like, his way of conquering fear was pretty much attacking fear, like, being around it so much until he wasn't scared of it anymore.
Bro, that's like, yeah, what you see in those drawings, that's not nightmares. Those are night terrors, man.
Like, he like you said, he's done LSD and he's drawn some of his... You could definitely tell, like, these were not...
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about flowers.
Yeah, no.
Certain flowers,
Maybe.
right?
You
But
can call it a flower.
yes, but but yeah, no, he conquered fear, like, straight on. Like, one of the things I love, like, I guess his dad gave him an actual human skull as a kid. Like, I think he said he was like 6 or 9 or some shit.
Sweet.
And he was scared of it because it's like he was holding like a human skull at a young age. Like,
Yeah,
you don't really
makes
know
sense.
what to do with it, really.
Yeah.
So he ended up just tying a string around it and dragging it down the street with him, like, to school or something.
Fucking brutal.
Dude. This man has had, like, I strongly encourage people to watch Dark Star H.R. Giger's World. It's a great documentary if you like documentaries. If you're interested in his dark art, I don't want to say dark art because it's not really satanic.
Fuck that. It's dark. It's creepy. It's eerie. It's awesome. I mean, there's so many ways to describe it, and there's variant ways that he went about each one of these paintings. So it's not limited. That's for sure.
Also done one of those things I would still love to do is, like, he actually made a little ride in his backyard, like a little, not a roller coaster, but like a little train ride in his backyard, going around all these different areas.
Cool. I didn't know that.
He is an amazing artist. He's also even inspired Celtic Frost or Celtic Frost, whatever. It's a Swedish black metal band. Fuck yeah! Like, I know they're, like, one of the classifications is black metal, but they're also another amazing freaking band.
His art has been inspiration for a lot of horror movies, a lot of video games. I know that one of the more recent ones that came out, Scorn, they definitely took some of his artwork into consideration when making not just the cover, but the whole fucking game. So it had a really eerie... I mean, they stuck to the eerie aspect of his artwork.
So, like, that's, like, one of the things, like, this movie, Alien, would not be what it is if it wasn't for Ridley Scott, for being how he was and who he was. Like, he is a very intellectual when it comes to filming and different film styles. You know, down to he used his kids in a suit, like, when they actually go out into like, study that cavern on that planet. So the scenery that they actually built was already pretty big to begin with, but they actually put his kids in the space outfits to make it seem even bigger than it was. Granted, he almost killed his kids during the scene because they were dehydrated, and I think they ended up passing out. But it's just, like, it's... So with Ridley Scott, Dan O'Bannon, and Giger, this movie would not be the way it is.
Not to mention the best fucking cast. I mean, between this one and the second one, it had a killer group of people in there.
I mean, Sigourney Weaver is, like, one of the... She is a phenomenal actress.
It feels like you can't bring up any kind of alien movie. I mean, even in Paul, where it wasn't a creepy alien, but a humanoid-style alien.
I think
she
anything
still
alien
had
and
to
ghost-related,
yeah,
she's
she had to get
there.
a tip of the hat.
You know, we talked about it in our cabin episode.
Yeah.
You know, like, she was the one that was keeping after the ancient ones.
Yeah.
You know, I mean...
One of the coolest final girls, in my opinion.
Like, this movie is legitimately still scary. But, no, I still want to talk about, like... So, like, we were talking about face fucking and all that stuff earlier. Yeah. Because Giger, like, I wanted to bring him up as well because of his sexual nature. Like, there is a lot of insemination from the face hugger of it itself looking like a vagina and stuff, and actually inseminating and pretty much making you give birth through your, like, a chest burster and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it is
the wrapping around your throat, choking you, impregnating you through your mouth, and then
it's like
chest
almost
bursting.
A gender role reversal.
Yeah.
So you have that female part actually technically making you give birth.
It's really all. It's a terrifying fucking nightmare, man.
Along with the xenomorph looking very phallic. As
Yeah.
well. Like there is a lot of phallic nature. Like one of the things too on the original egg where it's supposed to split open, it was supposed to like Giger originally had it more like a vagina, like where actually it just had a slit when it came open.
All right.
But Fox said no. We were trying to sell. We were trying to get
Yeah.
worldwide releases for this so we could sell it everywhere else. You know, especially in Catholic places, which. As sexual as it is, I don't know how they're like, oh, that slit's too much like a vagina. It's
Right.
So he's like, oh, we're just making it like a double vagina now. It makes it a cross.
Double it up.
And so it's like,
Double
now
down,
it's
baby.
double. But that's the thing. It's I don't know. I saw this movie just recently, like relatively recent in theaters, and it is still extremely shocking. It is so.
It plays on your anxiety a lot. I mean, the chase, the thrill.
You learn the characters, like the character development, and it is fucking excellent. It's a fucking scary. It's a scary ass movie, and it's 79. Like I always kind of say this, like I always look at the years and stuff, like what year I'm in, and this is 1979. When I think of 70s movies, I don't think of things that are good. Like even though there are, like the 70s was like the last decade of amazing movie. You have fucking Jaws, you have The Omen, you have The Exorcist, you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you have Alien. That was like the last decade of actually scary movies. Not saying Freddy Krueger. I mean, you have Halloween and arguably Friday the 13th
going on in that time frame. I feel like this movie definitely made sci-fi horror and not sci-fi or horror. I feel like this was the beginning of a new bond between the two genres for sure. And then there were greater ones that came out after that too. Well, maybe not greater, but I was a big fan of the Predator franchise. It's just they definitely had a good thing going on with the combination of sci-fi and horror.
Which I mean, you can't go wrong. When speaking of Predator, you can't go wrong with Predator at all. You have, without warning.
Gun. But the hunter isn't human. Only the prey are. It came without warning.
Fucking phenomenal movie that was made in 1980, directed by Graydon Clark.
This ass liquor. Phenomenal.
My segues are getting decent. Episode 20, my segues are going to be missing a couple wheels.
This was...
Hold on.
That's a hard one, man.
So, a gas station attendant and a Vietnam veteran pit themselves against an alien invader and its brood of flying killers. That just seems very...
This brood of flying killers was a stretch.
But that's what I don't remember any flying... All right, I'm going to start over real quick because it is kind of short. I don't remember... The only thing I remember is a flying disc.
That's all I'm saying.
But, all right, a gas station attendant and a Vietnam veteran pit themselves against an alien invader and its brood of flying killers. As they fly above, they fling an unusual substance of unsuspecting people that result in death.
This movie was not anywhere near as exciting as that description.
Like, I don't feel like that's the same movie.
No, it's not. I saw none of that. In fact, it was really hard to see anything with the way they shot this film. This film looked like it was oversaturated from the get-go. It felt like they only used natural lighting for everything, so you couldn't get a clear shot on anybody's face. It was always sunny. So sunny that you felt the sunburn coming through your TV screen.
Yes, like he is 100% correct on all this. Some of the reasoning was things being filmed on VHS. VHS started becoming very huge. It was a lot easier for average people that had enough money to rent or buy a camcorder with a VHS. Back then, they could go out and film a movie. Some of them were inspired enough where it's like, oh, we could make a horror movie that looks easy and cheap, which it was. And but doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie.
They took the cheapest fucking route they possibly could on this one, man.
It was as if I went out and made a horror movie without doing any YouTube, any kind of studying on actual composition, actual like shutter speed, any of the stuff. Just like, oh, let's just take the camera out and it's going to be good, instead of it just being the contrast is freaking horrendous.
I really try to find the good in any fucking movie I watch, even if it's a horrible movie. The only good that I felt like came out of this one is it inspired one of the greatest franchises ever, and that's Predator.
Yes.
I'm still having troubles after seeing it thoroughly, seeing how they got anything Predator out of this other than the weaponry that it probably used.
Which I want to say that was a big... so the two things that came out of it... I'm trying to look up the gentleman's name right now. All right, so one of the biggest things was, yes, the disc that was flying around and very alien-like. I always think of it as more like Jeepers Creepers, like the flying blade a little bit.
It kind of looked like that between that and Starfish.
I was going to say like a sand dollar.
Yeah.
Like it looks like
All right.
Which that effect is actually really freaking awesome. I was just sworn I saw somewhere that it was Rick Baker that ended up doing the mask for the alien and the sand disc dollar ninja
the ninja star. The blood-sucking ninja star. It didn't feel like that was a regular ninja star.
But that was a really cool effect. I did actually enjoy that, actually attaching and kind of sucking and just kind of
they used the bladder to make it look all gross and shit, which was fun.
But the alien was also played by Kevin Peter Hall, which played the Predator.
Oh no shit!
Yeah. So
right.
So there is that connective tissue of it actually being actual Predator based. It is. Honestly, I think that's the only reason why people say that this movie helped influence Predator is just because of that.
Because it is not something that I'd put in my collection.
Because honestly, I don't quite remember if they ever gave the alien a reason for being there.
It was hard to keep up on any of that shit. I mean, as far as a storyline like that goes, there was a lot of weird shit going on with this movie. The time frame that it was filmed in and all that stuff, and the way it was filmed to begin with.
It felt like I was too busy of thinking of two things predominantly. Was this is a movie that Mystery Science Theater 3000, kind of keeping with the same sci-fi thing right now, keeping up with it. It felt like this would have been the movie that they would have just been almost too bad for them, but a perfect movie to be made fun of. Because you have that, you have a and also a troop Boy Scout troop leader walking in on Walt trying to fucking make meth out in the fucking woods.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So that part did make me laugh. I was like, oh, all right, that's, a couple years too early.
It was it was pretty wild. But nothing to write home about. You know what I mean? As far as absolute bangers and classics, this one is far from all of that.
So that's like one of the things. We kind of wanted to bring up this movie because one, it helped inspire Predator. Which is a phenomenal, more sci-fi. Sci-fi action. I don't really want to classify that one as a horror. People can make that stretch. At the end of the day, I would not be putting it in my horror section.
I feel like some of it, but not the first ones. I can agree with you on that one. Arnold Schwarzenegger is 100%, even though I'd put Terminator on that fucking cusp of horror sci-fi. But
you got Commando, you have Conan and stuff. He was that action hero. Everyone there was freaking yoked out of their minds. You had that Minnesota governor
yoked and
there.
coked. Absolutely, it was a beautiful day to be an American.
But you also without this movie, whatever, we wouldn't have had Predator, and we wouldn't have believe what you want to believe, Alien versus Predator. Yeah. I want to say I've seen AVP 2. But that sink in mind on how I said that, because I don't remember if I've seen it or not, because I think it's actually that kind of forgettable.
I didn't like those ones. The ones that I'm referring to are things like Predators, where they took the 5 or 6 well-known killers in the world, kidnapped them, dropped them on the Predator's planet, and started hunting them. Those ones, in my opinion, were better on the line of sci-fi and horror.
There was
everything up until that felt like it was far more sci-fi and thriller.
Which that one I would still almost kind of I guess so, yeah. The one I still enjoy is Predator 2. That one's possibly my that one is really close to my second or third favorite Predator movie. Yes, Predator 2. I don't know about Predator. All right, so Predator, Predator 2, and Prey are kind of
Prey's a
all
great.
fighting.
Yeah.
So that one is like, I feel like more horror than sci-fi, definitely, but also more native horror.
But either way, it was...
It actually has a political statement on top of, I want to say, Britain kind of coming over and helping give predators a monetary value of muskets.
Oh, okay.
You know, I want to say that's the reason why they're handing out pistols all the damn time, is because that's predators' currency now.
Guns.
Yeah.
Guns and ammunition.
Very American.
It's beautiful. Freedom.
We love our guns, but we're not good at shooting. But yeah, without warning, let this be the warning. If you're okay with poorly made movies, I'm not saying it as in a mean, derogatory way or anything like that, but if you're into like a bad movies that are not... It's... I think I'm being counterintuitive. Bad movies that are not made great. Yeah, it's a bad movie, so it can't be great.
I feel like this is a part of... This is where I break free from what we usually saying. This is not one you need to watch. We watched it so you don't have to.
That's kind of it.
This one was... If you want to watch it, go on ahead. But, I mean...
That's the, like I'd
rather you waste your time watching some old Hitchcock films and stuff like that, because they had a little bit more to play in with modern horror.
I think that's
this
it.
one.
I think it's like, we watched it so you could go watch a better movie.
Yeah, don't worry about this one. The hype was all on In Search of Darkness 3. It's not actually there.
I think that's the thing. I don't like... I always want to encourage people to watch a movie because... It might be for someone.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I mean. It's a poorly made movie that is dark. It is very inexperienced people making a movie that you could use that excuse of not having enough money. But at the end of the day, even if you don't have any money, if you're filming something, one, the script is there. Writing it cost nothing. For the most part, writing cost nothing. And the film is one of the biggest things that are going to continuously cost money. That and props, which you don't need a lot of props, especially if you're making a horror / sci-fi film that's based on Earth. This movie could have been more promisable.
Yeah, especially with the cast that was in it, because you're gonna watch it. If you watch it, you're gonna notice a lot of people that are in there. You're gonna recognize a lot of actors.
Honestly, I want to say one of the reasons it reminded me so much of Mystery Science Theater 3000 is it reminded me of their episode of Werewolf. Because it had that same like Native American, poorly lit, bad sound kind of movie, and it felt like this movie was a ripoff of that movie, or vice versa.
Yeah, like the wind's always blowing, or somebody's got their hand on the boom. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it felt like a lot of the time. Home movies.
You know, I'm surprised that there wasn't someone holding a boom or holding the clacker or something like that on film accidentally.
Right.
Like, you don't just pan over too much. Like,
the alien was caught wearing Levi jeans.
Still better than Star Trek on that end. I just can't see any zippers. You can't see any strings. Granted, the film is shot so badly, I don't think you would see the strings, even if they were blatant right in your face.
They would be oversaturated.
They would see. You would have to use a shoestring in order for it to be seen. Hidden by the grain. God damn.
Exactly it.
All right, well, I guess, every one of you that are listening to my voice, tell the world, tell this to everybody wherever they are. Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the sky. Because, you know what? Fucking Bridget's there.
Fucking Bridget. It was raining from above.
Oh, fucking hell.